good. Alrighty, we will call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Is that too loud? Okay,
What?
there we go. First item is approval of the agenda.
I'll move.
Second?
Motion by Tim, seconded by Deb to approve the agenda. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. Next item, approval of the minutes. The minutes are for the regular meeting dated February 11th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second it.
Motion by Bob, seconded by Travis to approve the minutes. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. Next item, public input and ideas. Limit 5 minutes per speaker, please. All right, doesn't appear we have any. So we'll move on to reports. The first staff report will be Public Works.
Evening, Rick.
Full house, I like it.
Yep.
Any questions on the report? So about a year ago, you might remember we passed a resolution to support legislation, or an amendment to legislation, I should say, to allow overweight permits for the transportation of municipal sludge byproducts or municipal sewage byproducts. That resolution was brought to the Transportation Committee at the state level. And that was signed into law just a few days ago.
Ooh.
Cool.
And all the communities involved, I mean, just this little resolution we passed had such a impact on all these communities: Amory, Baldwin, Hudson, Ellsworth, New Richmond, Prescott. I mean, it's a big deal.
Wow.
We did a really good thing there. So.
Awesome. Good.
Do you mind if I ask you to just give a generic breakdown of what exactly you mean?
As far as the overweight permit?
Yeah, what it
We
is.
were hauling down, we're part of a processing facility for municipal sludge. We haul that to Ellsworth, or I should say it's hauled to Ellsworth, and turned into fertilizer. Now, it's a huge deal. I mean, there's only a few people that are part of this. And for example, I know in some other communities, you have to have 180 days of sludge or of capacity on hand. That's like 500,000 gallons of storage to make it through the winter. And then you have to have somebody go out and spread. So we're part of this thing that turns it into fertilizer. Basically, the state came in and limited them to only hauling 6,000 gallons at a time when we had been hauling 8 the whole time. Which was a huge cost impact. I mean, if you're taking, basically a load off every week, so you have to pay for an extra one, it's approximately like 12% of the sewer plant's overall budget. It's a huge cost item, so we saved some serious money.
Cool.
Good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Anything else?
And you have a new employee?
We do, starting on Thursday. We're really excited. I'll bring him
Outstanding.
around.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you've been looking.
Yes. We hired somebody local.
Oh, good.
Local guy, plumber, actually.
Oh.
So he's got some pretty good experience in the field.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Great.
Anything else?
No.
No?
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Rick.
you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Next would be library, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Evening.
Hello.
All right, I'll get right into it. This last month, I have finally completed my first draft of our strategic plan that I've been working on with John Thompson from IFLIS. So I'm hoping to present that this month to the library board and have something maybe draft to show everyone next month. So I'm pretty excited about that. As far as materials circulation goes, looks like we're a little under what we were last year at this time, but we've been staying pretty consistent. And surprisingly, our ebook checkouts have been consistently up by a couple hundred, so that's interesting there too. Yeah, so I'll go right into our featured collection this month. If you remember from last month, I'm going to start doing this just to feature like one unique collection that we have every month. So this month I'm featuring our parenting book collection. This has been developed by Rebecca over a few years, and we finally just decided to move it into its own section. So it used to be just mixed in the nonfiction, and now it's in its own section, and there's a picture that you can see of it. And these items have had a huge bump in circulation since we did move them, which is a really great example of how where we shelve materials can have a really big impact on who sees them and who benefits from them. So right now they're in the children's section, so parents who are here with their kids are seeing those books and they're checking them out. So we're excited about that. And then moving on into events and activities. Again, it's been a really good couple of months for our programs. The Big Fun Play Date that Rebecca does every month has been consistently really well attended. In February, we had 40 kids, and I think this month it was like around 35. So still just consistently going really well. We also started our Adult Craft Club, and that's run by Dawn, if you've met her, and she's been doing crafts. She did for February, it was like a little felted gnome, and they turned out really, really cute, and people really liked it. So we're gonna continue trying to do that every month. But other than that, we had a lot of programs in the last month, and it's just been going very well. So the only other thing I guess I'd say about programming is to keep an eye out for our summer schedules coming out soon. We're gonna have a lot of really fun stuff planned this summer. And lastly, for our facilities and staff, I don't know if this exactly fits in there, but I also just wanted to let everyone know that we did receive a very generous bequest from the will of Scott Wing. It was for over $13,000. So super generous, and we really appreciate that. And we'll be developing a proposal in the coming months for the library board for the ways that we can use that to honor him and this donation. So I'll keep you guys posted on that too.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Shelby.
Thanks, Shelby.
Fire Department.
Hey, Don.
Hey, now. Not a lot for this last month. We had a total of 6 runs. 1 run in the village, 5 runs out to Farmington Township. Kind of the breakdown there was a lift assist. We had a tractor fire, 2 alarms, and then 2 structure fires. Work proceeding with the new truck. They're going through all the testing right now on the pump, the ladder. We've all been just working with them, asking them, hey, take your time, whatever you need to do, get it right, and then we'll go from there. They've been working with us hand in hand on this whole thing, so we're helping each other there, so it's a big win-win for all of us. We did come up with some issues with our pumper truck the other day, with the age of the truck, and we had some wiring that started corroding, which caused problems at our last fire. Thankfully, with Paul's help, and then we had Jim Kavita's brother, his business out there looking at it again, and found those corroded wires that were causing the problem. So I was a little nervous. I didn't know if it was something big or it was small. I'm glad it was on the small side, and it was an easy fix. He's got a part that he ordered, and we're still waiting for that. But overall, the truck can be used if needed. We have our backup with the Chevy, and we have no problems there. So the village is in good hands as far as that, especially we can still use the 72 if needed because that's working great. So any questions? Nope, not this time. Oh, one thing, we did get our extractor and washer and dryer up and running. So that is, we got a little bit of duct work to finish up on, but overall that's working fine. Other than that, things look good upstairs, up at the fire hall. So, Super. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Don.
you.
Building permits.
Okay, in your report, there's just 2 building permits for the month of February. It was a very quiet month. Just one general deck permit, and then the second one was a new home. So that brings our total up to 3 new homes, which a little bit quieter than, looks like some records, but again, it's winter time. So I anticipate a few permits being pulled for basements pretty quick here.
administration.
Okay, real quickly here, you'll have a map within your packet. The village has been working diligently with the school district and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to look at ways to make our 35 a little bit safer for our residents. We've had speeding issues and some collisions and crashes that have necessitated us at least asking, can we get those speeds slowed down? DOT is reticent to reduce the speeds on 35, especially by the school, because it's just considered a rural cross-section and there just isn't the need for it. We got to play a bit of a political game with it because some of the rules that they have at the state level say that if you want us to audit this and to look at it, it may negatively affect causing other areas of that corridor to be increased in speed. So it's not always twofold. But what we are doing is going to be working with the state to get permitting to put up school warning signs that are allowed on those areas. So it allows during school traffic time to reduce the speed, hopefully making it a little bit safer during those slow times. It's come to my attention as I learn more about this that we have village staff or school district staff that are actually out there flagging on 35 saying, no, you gotta wait, we gotta get these buses out because buses stack up. It's not the best situation, so if we can get the speed or at least some signage out there, hopefully that'll make it a little safer. As soon as ground thaws, we'll get those permits finished up for that one. Secondly, the village has completed the first phase of its annual audit. Audits for municipalities are a welcome thing. It's an opportunity for us to make sure our numbers match where we think they should be. They get very complicated when you get new buildings and assets. In this case, 19 was pretty quiet where we didn't have a new building or those assets, so it's going fairly smoothly. I'll give a little bit more of an update during the financing portion there. Okay. We are anticipating the new halftime position in our office to be posted Friday. We're going to be hiring that halftime position that was highly recommended to help us get through our financing and funding needs. It's going to be considered an office assistant. Their primary job is going to be focusing on front desk work as well as accounts payable, accounts receivable, and some of those day-to-day tasks that are very hard for current staff to keep up on.
This is also recommended to divide duties.
Correct. Yep, it's going to help to disperse out the duties of the position to make existing workloads a little bit easier for especially our clerk. We've had a gentle winter, and that means our village staff has been able to catch up on some projects. Public Works has been doing a great job getting areas cleared out. The old school busing building, as an example, was just filled with a bunch of junk, and they've slowly but surely started getting that cleaned out, which is a good asset for us. We're looking at repurposing that area into maybe some better storage to potentially help out some of our partners or our library or other things. So while that hasn't been officially all figured out yet, we're excited to see that building be reused for a different purpose. Gateway subdivision has been a bit of a thorn in the village's side. It's been unique because it was never really meant to be what it is today, and as such, it was never designed to be what it is now. So village staff with our public works team has came up with some solutions to better sign that area. We're going to be reaching out to those neighborhoods to kind of solicit some advice or some input on what we think that area could be. So for no parking areas because of the narrow roadways, maybe one way on the alleyway, and then lastly is putting stop signs and other traffic control out there. This was viewed by our Public Works Committee, and ultimately the board will have the final say as it's a code change, but we want to make sure the residents are well aware of what is happening since they live there. If it doesn't make sense for them, then we need to revisit it. The last one I have for you today is, we've had an interesting couple days here with everything that's happened up at the school and, what's happening around our country, and it would behoove us to at least say that village staff is well aware of it. We've met multiple times to have a few department meetings to ensure that we're doing everything we can to not only keep this building clean, but also make sure our residents are aware. So everybody out in the audience and all of you and anybody listening, I encourage us all to use our resources. The CDC is an amazing resource. They have an amazing website that gives a lot of information, and we have links on our website to it. We're also doing proactive things, much like the school district was. We're ramping up our cleaning efforts in the buildings and village areas to make sure they're clean. One example is we scrubbed down this room before this meeting today, so whenever we have these gatherings, we'll be very clean. And then lastly, if it does become something more, which hopefully it doesn't, we'll revisit our rental policy with our library. There might be some times where we say, okay, those big gatherings maybe aren't appropriate right now. We don't want to take that approach, but if it gets there, we have some policies in place. That's really all I have, Jeremy.
Excellent. Any questions? All right, thanks, Ben. Police.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Ron.
So any questions at all on the statistical part of the report that I always start out with at the beginning? It's kind of a brief snapshot of what's going on.
No.
Easy IT guy security platform popping up.
It's a new one.
Yeah. So February was kind of a busy month for investigations that I kind of outlined here. There were some larger investigations that resulted in some search warrants. In addition to the 3 search warrants we did, we also had a call of the fugitives that were in Osceola here off Seminole Avenue. We worked with the Minnesota Fugitive Task Force and the U.S. Marshal Service, and it was a good ending. The 2 wanted people were captured. There was no one injured and no major incidents. That was good. Our part-time officer roles continue. We haven't had great success in getting applicants, or let alone qualified applicants. As you can see, we had it posted for 6 weeks, had a few applicants, 3 weren't even qualified, or 2 weren't qualified, 1 was not hireable. And of the 2 remaining 2, one of them backed out before they even came to the interview, and then the person we interviewed kind of had some other ambitions, and we knew they wouldn't be here long, and they couldn't start for a few months anyway. So long story short is we have a position posted again for another 5 weeks. We've gotten a few applications in, but none of them live in the area. So realistically, I don't see that those are viable options because they can't work part-time here and commute from Green Bay.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we have coming in by the end of the period. Hopefully, there's a couple good candidates.
Sorry, I
yeah.
ask a question. Are other departments finding the same problem with that?
Yeah, a lot of departments. Polk County has had this ever-evolving problem. They actually switched to 12-hour shifts, and they're going to eliminate the reliance on part-time officers, which is what a lot of departments are doing. They're trying to hire full-time staffing to eliminate that just because of the shortage. And with our being short a couple of full-time officers, we're really reliant on part-time officers, which makes this even worse, I think, for our community, being that reliant on part-time staff. One thing I did note in the report, and I don't know why, but the federal community orienting policing grant has been submitted. In true government grant fashion, it was somewhat painstaking, but Ben and I were able to work together. He got me a lot of good numbers, and we wrote the grant and submitted it. So now we're just in a holding pattern. And it officially closes tomorrow is when it closes. So then hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll hear whether we got it or not. We did receive a lot of emails from the COPS federal grant office saying, due to heavy loads and great, anticipation of a lot of applications, make sure you get it submitted early. So this grant, as expected, is going to draw a lot of attention. So hopefully we get it.
Thank you for doing that, and good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah, thank you. Officer Lehman and I did a driver's ed class. I mention this every time, but it's a good time. Kids like it. We first go there. They're a little apprehensive. No one wants to ask questions, but by the end of the class, they're doing the fatal vision goggles, and we even added in a little obstacle course at the end with the goggles and the school hallway. So it's a good time. I think they learn a lot, and it's positive. Same thing, Officer Bach and I did a SCAM presentation at the senior center. We sure do a lot of these presentations both inside and outside the village. Churches in Dresser or just outside of Dresser have asked us to do presentations too, and we have no problem going out there and doing these presentations because we're all one community. People travel in and out, so we must do a good job because we get quite a few requests for these, and we enjoy doing that as well. As Administrator Kramenauer, why can't I say it now? Ben.
You're just
Ben.
excited.
Yeah. As Ben mentioned earlier about the Highway 35 project, that was a good effort. Also County Road M, I don't know if you noticed that or not, but the school district had asked us to maybe help them reduce the speed at 248th Street. We haven't had great success there in the past, but after recent events and further evaluation, we submitted the request, and now for the edge of the village, out past 248th Street is 45 miles per hour from 55. And bus drivers have had really positive feedback saying they can gauge speed now, traffic better. It's just better now. So that also worked out well. Ben and I met with the Minnesota Transportation Museum. There's been some emails going back and forth. They're trying to plan ahead and anticipate on busy season, especially during a couple of their bigger events. Looked at a bunch of different parking opportunities. They went and toured it. I appreciate them trying to be proactive because when these events come up and all of a sudden we're expecting, 2,000, 3,000 people a day or in a 2-day weekend, there's not a lot of parking. So they're being proactive and it'll go much better this year, I think. And finally, our last community coffee events of the season are this month in March. They'll be on the 20th and 27th from 8:30 to 10. So if we haven't seen you there, maybe we will. So, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ron.
All right, next up, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street.
Diana?
Okay, I'll just go through what we have here. We have been doing our Rise and Shine education series, which has been fairly well attended. A lot of good information at those meetings. Our Cocoa Crawl we had on the 29th. We had over 500 people come into town for that. Some of our business had record sales, which is great. I believe Jeremy and his daughter won our obstacle course, so congrats, Jeremy.
She carried you again, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore.
We have a few upcoming events. Thursday, March 19th, I would like to invite you all to our chamber chat. It will be at the Pizza Cellar downtown. They are one of our newest members. This is an opportunity for our businesses to get together in an informal setting and just let everyone know what they have going on with their businesses and what's coming up. The chamber will also give just a quick 5 minutes of what we are doing coming up in the rest of the year. We have a spring social mixer at Crooked Creek on April 16th. Hopefully we can do a driving challenge or putting challenge or something to make that fun. And then on April 25th is our spring fling, and that is where we raise our money for flowers. So that's a big event for us to keep our downtown streets looking pretty. And then I just wanted to say thank you all for coming to that joint meeting we had with the chamber. We really enjoyed that, and I think good things will come from it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I
Thank
got.
you.
Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item. Moving on, other business, discussion and possible action regarding. First item, conditional use permit and rezone for the Horst Reckelbacher Foundation property. Ron, I got Ron's problem. 856 Pioneer Drive.
Okay, you also must be just excited here.
Yeah.
Okay, this was one of those that's kind of a unique little situation here for everybody that hasn't had a chance to see the packet. The Horst Reckelbacher Foundation, about 300 acres on the north and west side of 35, had a larger greenhouse that was burned down at lightning or what have you. Something happened and it came down. But they still find a value to that property or to that building. They do a series of goodwill events. They do some studies and researches tied to some schools, it sounds like, as well as some other uses where that greenhouse is a really, really nice asset for their use. But the issue is that the building itself, the pad where they wanted to put it no longer fit with where their plan was, which means that they had to come in and get some new agreements in place. So there's three things that are kind of in discussion today in your packet. The first one is that the Planning Commission did recommend approval of a lot line adjustment and rezone tied to the location of where the new building is. Where they want to put the new building was straddling property lines. And we don't allow buildings to straddle property lines, and they wouldn't have met the required setbacks. So the first two pieces that the Planning Commission recommended, again, were the rezone to bring both of those lots into the same R2 zoning designation. And then the second one was that lot line adjustment. And then the third piece of this puzzle was the building itself. Because it's not a one-for-one replacement, they had to go through, again, the certifications. And this kicks into our conditional use permit process. Right now, an accessory structure can't exceed 400 square feet. This one is upwards of 6,984 square feet. So while it is actually smaller than the original one, it's still bigger than the rule. So Planning Commission also made a positive recommendation to the board to approve that conditional use permit. Next up for us here is, once this committee does their approvals, then we'll do proper notification, and then the final paperwork will be submitted to the county for any lot line adjustments on the system, as well as the appropriate reviews. They still have to pull their permits. This is no way allowing for a permit. They still have to do their building permits, and their intent is to reconstruct this long-term. With that, I'll take any technical questions.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, this one is. It's just larger than at others, but it's really no different than a larger garage in somebody's lot. It just happens to be a pretty neat structure. It'll be two-sided, about half and half, so they can specialize in greenhouse uses, and then what's called a head house in between. It's all one structure, but it's got little wings attaching.
I'll make a motion to approve these 3 items as one. And I think everything has been presented very clearly, and I don't think it's a big issue, so I think we'll make a motion to approve these 3 items.
I'll second it.
Motion by Bruce, second by Travis, to approve the conditional use permit and rezoning as listed here. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. Next item, standard village board committee meeting calendar.
When I first started here, I noticed some anomalies that we have committees that aren't really scheduled out there. It makes it very difficult for residents and board members to kind of anticipate when meetings are going to be coming. I presented the idea of, do we want to start standardizing a calendar that is reproducible for our residents to be able to see things? And as well as noting that we have, darn near 20 committees of varying intensity. So the calendar that's in front of you is basically reprioritizing when we want to have monthly or regular meetings, as per our village code already states, and when we have a little bit more liberty and maybe quarterly meetings, and then meetings as needed. So I'll note, just for everybody in the audience, that Village Board, Planning Commission, Admin and Finance, and Airport Commission, and Library are the 5 that would be proposed to meet regularly every month. They're either by statute required to, or best practice for a village board, or Admin and Finance is a committee that has to go through a lot more input every month. So I'm recommending those go as monthly. Of course, if there's no business items, they can still be canceled, but at least residents will know that they're out there. Quarterly meetings I'm proposing are Water and Sewer, Public Works, and Police and Fire. I've met with the department leads for those committees, and they all felt that a quarterly is fine. It's sufficient for day-to-day needs, and yet it'll still standardize them. And then you'll note on here that I'm recommending a little bit of a variation on the months, so staff doesn't get inundated with 8 meetings in a month. That makes it a little tough, so you'll notice that. The rest of our committees, which include Board of Appeals, Court Commission, Downtown Facade Loan, Ethics Board, Historical Preservation, see, I'm tongue-tied now too. Micro Loan, Police Board of Review, and Redevelopment Authority, those will be as needed. From our perspective, those are more when events come up. Historical Preservation Committee meets when there's an issue related to a very specific portion of the village. And we'll call those meetings as needed. So with that, I just have a calendar in front, and it's something we'd like to make sure residents are aware of so they can participate in these meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar.
I'll second.
Motion by Deb, seconded by Bob, to approve the standardizing of the board and committee calendars. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously.
Good deal.
Thanks, Ben, for working on that.
One that got away from me a little bit, but I wanted to get back to it.
Yep. All right, next item, ordinance, sorry, 20 to be determined, actually, it's fireworks. Oh, draft ordinance, okay.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you, Fran's are actually going to take the lead on explaining it, but last year, there was some concerns or questions about how do we regulate the purchase or the permitting of fireworks for sales. And I want to stress that this is just a draft. This is a first copy. This hasn't been thoroughly vetted, but we wanted to make sure you get in front. And again, Fran taking the lead on it is going to hopefully explain a little bit more than I can on it.
Sure. As been mentioned, the issue has been raised about regarding selling fireworks in the village. The current ordinance that we have adopts state statute, which prohibits the sale of fireworks within the village, as well as prohibits people letting off fireworks without the proper permit. The proposed ordinance that we have drafted is after I've gathered information from a number of local communities, including Richmond, St. Croix Falls, Hudson, Baldwin, Prescott, and Somerset. There were several things that most of these communities had in common. So based upon that, I made a draft ordinance for further review and tweaking by the village board that would permit the sale of fireworks within the village upon application and permit to the village board. It also has language to permit people to be able to apply to set off fireworks within the village. And then it also would permit people to be able to transport and possess fireworks through the village. Right now, after we've adopted state statutes, none of those things are permitted. So we want to be able to have people enjoy the 4th of July, certainly responsibly, with those types of materials, and this process would allow people to do that.
I should state in the fairness of openness, we did just receive an email from a property owner, a business owner that does currently sell that, suggested that maybe the village gave exclusive rights to them to be the only person to sell or the only business to sell in the village. We're still checking into that. We've seeked out asking them for, justification for why that claim was made. I didn't see anything in the ordinances in the last 40 years. But that doesn't mean something wasn't out there, so.
And wasn't that claim stated to be a long time ago?
Yeah, apparently it was approved in the 80s or 90s, if that claim is substantiated. So we're still checking into those pieces, but I don't know that that would pertain to this regulation here. It's just in alignment with it.
So would this ordinance give just everyday residents the opportunity to shoot fireworks off, or is this more towards event shooting fireworks off?
Covers both.
That's one of the things that need to be tweaked by the village board. What your desire is, what you want to let people do or not do. Certainly it would have insurance requirements. The draft ordinance does have provisions for both community groups and events and also individuals, but they all require a bond or a proof of insurance before they could do that. That would name the village as additionally insured on their policy, so the liability would be on them and not on the village. The village's insurance company probably would really frown upon the village certainly taking any liability for any local residents setting off fireworks. They would have to prove to us that they had sufficient coverage and have the village as additionally insured before they would be able to do that.
And we're talking the large fireworks when it comes to some of those things.
So not
Your-
just
your-
personal use fireworks?
Yeah, your snakes and sparklers are a different rule at the state level there.
So as we move forward with this, we'll have police and fire involved?
Correct, yep. This is just a draft.
Right.
We've actually been working with Chief Pedris already.
Yep.
It's just an attempt to try to address some of the issues we have with, well, who is allowed to sell fireworks that are greater than sparklers and snakes.
Okay.
Would this do anything for our zoning code then too, as to where you could sell fireworks, like what zoning districts, or is this a standalone ordinance?
This would probably be a standalone. We could certainly write in some of that language. I would have to check to see what our current zoning would allow for that business sale there first.
Gotcha.
In the possession and transport of fireworks, just clarify for me, you would get something from the seller?
The process that would be in place is that the sellers who were approved by the village in order to sell fireworks, there would be a process in place with a form either supplied by the village or working in conjunction with the retailer for the people who purchase fireworks from them to be able to transport and possess that fireworks in the village, because by statute right now, they can't do that. So it's an additional permitting and reporting process that they would have some administrative responsibility for, to report to the village how many permit sales they had and the revenue of that as well. And that would be remitted back to the village.
While I'm not a big fan of extra fees and things, there's an administrative cost to adhering to these state regulations, so
Yep.
it may be appropriate for the board to recommend some sort of charge when they make their purchase.
Okay.
So I guess what we're seeking for today is just some guidance on saying, is this a direction that the village board is comfortable moving forward on? Are some of our assumptions accurate, or
Yeah,
are we moving a different
I think the
direction?
insurance angle is very important. We want to make sure that we're not the deep pockets individual everybody comes to when something goes sideways on this thing. So having us covered is additional insured. I love it.
That's not fireworks out there, guys.
Nope, it's not fireworks.
And I think working
I-
with police and fire closely.
Yeah,
I also think that the permitting piece has to be very, very clear so that the sellers know, because I think that'll be a big piece for sellers and buyers to understand, so it's very clear. Because if we're gonna charge somebody for the fireworks and a little extra, they're gonna wanna understand it and understand why, and, because the sellers will have to put up with people unhappy.
There's a lot of community ordinances that, where the big fireworks retailers operate in, mostly border communities, that are kind of used to this and used to complying with it because they have to do it in other communities that they sell in. But it would be something new, of course, here, and something new for, local people here who wanted to purchase it as well. Of course, a lot of the border communities fireworks sale comes from people across the river who come over and purchase it because they can't buy it at home. But unfortunately, I don't think we can differentiate in permit fees between those different residents.
Right. Okay.
So this went through police and fire already?
Not yet. We've worked with police
Okay.
chief, but nothing more yet. It's just for,
So it'll go back to police and fire?
yep, just wanted to give you an update as it's starting to get closer to that season.
okay.
Well, it looks like they have a meeting maybe next month, so,
That's right.
all right. Any other questions or comments for Ben or Fran on this at this time?
Thanks for putting it together, Fran.
Yep, thank you,
Yep.
guys.
Yep, thanks. All right, next item. St. Croix Valley Veterans Recognition Statute Agreement.
Okay, finally to the stuff that everybody's here for. This and I think probably some licensing at the end.
Paul Anderson here to represent the St. Croix River Valley Veterans Memorial. And I'd like to point out that we've been after this task for 12 years. I think we're at the point where we've got all the Ts crossed, the Is dotted, permits in place, and we are ready to break ground as soon as Ben tells us we can have the property. We've got an agreement here, recognition statute agreement between the village and our group. Do you have a copy?
Yep, everybody's got one.
Just under item 2B, or item 2A, item B, it says that the term of this agreement shall be altered, changed, extended, otherwise modified as mutually agreed upon in writing by both parties of the agreement. Need to point out that this agreement will be relatively short-term. I can explain myself here. Our veterans group, the volunteers that we have that will be working on this project, we are not a bona fide 501c3 as far as legality of anybody's eyes that will be using this or questioning construction, et cetera. So at some point, we have to turn ownership over to a bona fide 501c3 in the village. We've got some options that we're looking at, but we're really hopeful and anticipate that the Historical Society will take this over. So again, this agreement will be from the day that we sign it through to the day that we are completed with the initial project construction. Again, being a moving, when I say a moving project, because as long as there are wars, we will continue to add bricks with names on them for well beyond any time that we are past. Just one item here I had an issue with. Ben and I, we have talked, or our group have talked about snow removal. If we look at item 6E, Veterans Group is responsible for keeping pathways, sidewalks, areas clean and free from waste and rubbish, and shall provide for removal of snow and ice in accordance with village ordinances. We've identified that because of the construction of the concrete and the cobblestone type bricks that will be in place, we feel it'll be quite invasive to keep that free of snow and ice during the winter. So we've decided just to leave it. All of the lighting will be up on top of the flagpoles projecting down. So really, it's no reason to remove that ice and snow from the park project itself. I just wanted to make it clear here that there is going to be a sidewalk along the street there eventually, correct?
Well, the village can have that as a long-term plan, but there isn't one in the interim, no.
Okay. Because I think there was in the initial dirt work there that we had to make a provision for handicap across the sidewalk.
Yeah, long-term, if you guys see the maps that's provided, long-term, there will be access point to the roadway for ADA in, but that's, as I understand it, future phases of the memorial.
Okay, so I just wanted to emphasize that would be village responsibility then to keep the sidewalk clear rather than the veterans group? Just being a common sidewalk?
If it's parallel to the roadway and it's a village asset, that would seem reasonable, but if it's access to the Veterans Memorial, the village wasn't never gonna be a part of clearing out the snow around it for the same reasons you said of running heavy equipment on paver blocks.
Right, I don't see that we have any entrance.
Yeah. So if the village were to put a sidewalk adjacent to our park, then yes, that would be village responsibility in
Okay,
the
that's the
future.
only item I wanted to clarify. Other than that, we're great with the agreement.
The things I'll note real quickly here, and is that the village has previously, it sounds like, gone on the record of committing to ensuring that the site is ready to go from a foundation standpoint. There was an old basement there, and it was basically just filled in, but it was never verified that it was compacted. So, village is estimated at $2,500 expense to ensure that the site is ready to go for the memorial, and then of course the village will maintain the lawn and grass around there from a lawn cutting standpoint. Impact of maintenance is minimal for lawn cutting. We're in the area already, and that our public works department is prepared with funds for the $2,500 park, the prep of the pad, if you will.
we need a motion to approve it on our part.
Yes, yeah, I would recommend a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with the Veterans Group.
Second it.
By Deb, second by Travis, to approve the Veterans Recognition Statue Agreement. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so if this veterans group is no longer around and we haven't had one that's come into place to take up what the veterans side of this agreement is, what happens?
Once we find a permanent owner of this, we'll draft up a new agreement. This is pretty much an interim agreement for the construction period.
Okay. So the plan is to have a group, an official 501c3 group that would handle the
Right, through
responsibility.
attrition, you know, it's inevitable. One day we won't be here, and then somebody has to know what to do with the property.
I think, as your concern, is there verbiage in here, what happens in the case?
Yeah, just who's
Nothing.
on the hook for what if the. if
So
there's no
there
longer
is
a group?
language in here. Right now, in the interim, the Veterans Memorial would be responsible for the maintenance of the site during the construction time and the process. Additionally, they are responsible for ensuring that it's kept up in good working order. You know, simple as lowering the flags to half-mast, things like that. Of course, the village will go over there and I'll walk across the street to lower them too, but they're ultimately responsible for those things. The only thing the village will be responsible for is the maintenance of the grounds itself. The village has made it pretty clear that we're not in a position to be able to take on, you know, long-term maintenance of the statues and stuff. That needs
Right.
to be addressed within this.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. Thanks, Paul.
Stop in tomorrow to sign it?
Yep, we'll take care of signatures tomorrow.
Okay.
And then as soon as ground thaws, we'll get our crews out there to start, you know, ensuring the site's ready to go.
cool.
Hopefully it won't keep doing that snow stuff.
Sorry, Paul, one last question. About how long are you expecting for? Yep.
As it shows on the item 2, term of this initial agreement will be, tomorrow is the 11th day of March, expires December 31st. We highly anticipate having it done by the
Wheels and Wings.
Wheels and Wings weekend.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next item, permits and license. Beverage server operator license. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like we have 8.
So I have a question on Cheryl Bergerson's because there are no application received by or approvals or anything.
I just had somebody that was in her.
Just a
name.
minute,
Yeah,
okay.
I took her application and she provided the necessary documents that she had taken class and everything.
Perfect.
Was in order. And so actually, on all of the ones that were submitted, they had the items in order. And the
Perfect.
background checks were done by the police department and were passed.
Okay. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the applicants all at once. Is that okay? As a group?
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bob, second by Tim, to approve the listed servers, all as a group. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, next item, Class B liquor license. So we have, last time I checked, 1 available, correct?
Correct.
And we have 2 applicants. So we have Ozzie Erickson LLC, Carolyn Swires agent, doing business as Cascade Bar and Grill, and we also have Pizza Seller LLC, Stephanie M. Murphy, agent, doing business as the Pizza Seller. I guess to go through this, I'd suggest each party, if they want to come up and have a few minutes to speak as to why they're applying and what it'll do for their business. And we'll just go in order. So Ozzie Erickson LLC first, please.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
No, not yet. It was a silent okay that got louder.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Thank you.
We opened up 4.5 months ago out here in this village of Osceola, and people have been treating us great. It's been a fun ride, and I think we're providing a good product, a good asset to the community, and we just want to keep that going, and hopefully we can get the license tonight. That'd be a great thing, and appreciate your time and everything. You got something to say?
I just love being, I like being here. Ever since we've gotten to town, people have been treating us nice. The business has been going good. It's been picking up with the nice weather, and I just think adding that license would enhance business and make things go a lot better. And I just excited to be here for a long time.
We'd be grateful for the opportunity, and thank you.
All right.
Got
One-
any questions for us?
No, just the one comment I want to make in the application for the Cascade Bar and Grill. It was accidentally included the previous beer and wine sheet in there, so that's not really in question. You can just disregard that sheet. It wasn't originally supposed to be a part of it. Chief Pedras did review the applicant, and his recommendation is on there.
Good. Does anyone have questions from the board?
All right now.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then pizza seller, please.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name's Colin Hastings. This is Stephanie Murphy. We'll be speaking on behalf of the pizza seller tonight.
Good.
Why did we apply for the Class B liquor? Well, first of all, I'd like to start off by saying it's weird that it comes down to one or the other. Because will we do something better than the Cascade? Probably not. Will they do something better than us? Probably not. Will it enhance business for both? Absolutely. What I will tell you is we've got not a 5-year plan in place. We have a 30-year goal in place. We want to build something in Osceola where after the food is done, we bring a certain amount of, another level of class to Osceola nightlife, bringing you stuff that Osceola has either never seen or barely sees, and that can be stand-up comedians, local acoustic acts. I've reached out to some quick change artists. If you've never seen one of them, Google it. It's pretty neat. We want to bring that in as Osceola nightlife. We do have the lounge downstairs. We'd like to get that up and running. It's a neat little place. I've tried to invite as many board members as I could get a hold of in there to walk them through exactly what we were going to do and what our plans are with the Class B liquor license. A few of you were able to make it. A few of you I didn't get a hold of or calls back from. So it would enhance everything we're doing. We have the people and the process in place to make it a safe, responsible experience. And that includes getting educated by Ron Pedres, by our local ATF agents. We've educated ourselves to be as knowledgeable as we can so we can abide by all local, state, and federal laws when we do this. Because we're new to this. This is new, but we got some great ideas coming, and we'd like to build off them by being awarded a Class B license. Any questions?
This lower level, is that where you're planning on doing the hard liquor license down there? Or is it gonna
We
be in
applied
the
for
whole
it for the-
restaurant?
We applied for it for the whole building.
Okay.
And the back patio. You don't see a patio back there, but the building owners do own, I think it's 30 by 60. It's a little area back there. So we applied for the upstairs, the downstairs. The upstairs is where we'd hold the comedy events, bring in the entertainment at like after the kitchen closes, you know, and start a little bit of nightlife.
Okay,
And but yeah, it's for the downstairs also,
okay,
for the lounge. Yeah.
super.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the unfortunate unfortunate part is it does come down to one or the other because of how this all works. I know when I first got on, we were going through a liquor license issue, and learned quite about it. Another reason to take the census seriously, so we can get those numbers up and hopefully get another one. But it does come down to one or the other, and I know we have the ability to not give it to anyone and hold it. I don't think that's reasonable at all, so. Does anyone have any comments? I know that Van could not be here tonight. I did ask him if he had any thoughts or things he wanted to say to submit them to Fran.
Yes.
Did he submit?
He did. He submitted an email, which is right there.
And I will say ahead of time, this does not constitute a vote. It is just, he was not able to be here, but he wanted his intentions to be known.
Yes, the email states, Fran, in my absence for tonight's board meeting, I wish to convey my opinion as to item 7 under licenses, section B, Class B liquor license applicant number 2. The pizza seller, it is my opinion that a Class B license is granted to the pizza seller. Nothing follows, VA Birch, trustee, Village of Osceola.
I will share my thoughts on this. I wish every business here the best luck and success. I remember not too long ago when Rumor Has It was trying to get a liquor license, was unable to, and I heard quite a bit about it, how that's a bar and it needs a liquor license, and people were very upset. And I believe, you know, in order of the businesses opening, that might be how I lean. It is in no way against Pizza Cellar. And I'm hoping again that we get the stuff up, but I don't really know what else to say. That's just kind of how I'm leaning, so.
What is the threshold for us to get a new liquor license?
500.
500 more people?
Well, actually, it's what, 2856 is the official 2010 number? So if we got to 3,000 in 2020, we'd be there.
Yeah, another provision that is less common but also is available now is that the village can work with an adjoining township to gain additional licenses. And also that if someone were to build a banquet center or hotel that could seat 300 people, there would be a license available to that establishment.
But only to that establishment, correct?
Only to that establishment, but the township, bordering township is also an option.
And that
Are
is,
there any available that bordering townships have that we could negotiate with, or
I
are
do
they
not
all
know,
being
and,
used?
yeah, I don't know if the bordering townships have any licenses available or not.
I do remember in going through this the first time, when I first got on, reading about that process, and they're very coveted and very expensive. So when Hudson ran out of them, tried to purchase from the town of Hudson, it was very high what they were asking for it, so. But, yeah, something that we could look into.
I would agree with Jeremy on this is hard. We want success for both, but unfortunately our size leaves us with the chance of one, and so this was hard because I see the value of both. I've been to both. I very much like both places. So I'm gonna go with the same, I'm leaning the same direction, Jeremy, that going with the Cascade was opened early at first, Pizza Cellar second, and to go with that. So that, I don't think any of us have taken this lightly because we know the value of the liquor piece of it. We watched Rumor Has It struggle with beer and wine. The businesses in town, everywhere from Tippy's to Watershed, that have the full liquor licenses, use it well, and I think have great business models going right now that we're very happy with, and I don't think any of them are going out of business anytime soon. So I think it's been a hard decision on it, and to try to just figure out how to do it, I I ran out of ideas too. Yeah, I want to give it to both, but we can't, so.
All right, well, I will make a motion to award the Class B liquor license to Ozzie Erickson LLC, doing business as Cascade Bar and Grill.
I'll second that.
Motion by myself, seconded by Bob, to approve the Class B liquor license for Cascade Bar and Grill. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, and I will ask for a roll call vote on this, please.
Okay.
Aye.
No? Aye.
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 Aye. So the motion will pass 5 to 1. All right. And as you can tell by the silence, it was a hard decision, so. Next item.
It is.
Sorry.
I think I mean, and it's
It
kind of
sucks.
funny that something like this is harder than so many other decisions we make. But I think it's because we see the value to both businesses. We really like the people who have both businesses and we want both to succeed. But at the end of the day, we only have one, unfortunately. So,
All right. Next item, board and committee, commission, and agency reports. We have 4, June 4th, 2019, Public Works Committee. Second is July 24th, 2019, Historical Preservation Commission. Third, January 2nd, 2020, Osceola Library Board. And fourth is February 4th, 2020, Planning Commission. Reason I can never do any motion on this? All right. Any questions or comments on any of those?
what do we? I don't think
We need a motion on those? We don't need a motion on those. I don't know why I can never remember.
I think we motioned in the past,
Have
didn't
we?
we?
All right, fair.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Deb, seconded by Bruce, to approve the 4 reports. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. Next item, financial update.
Well, I apologize for not having much in front of you, but I wanted to use this opportunity to go into a little bit more detail about our audit. As I mentioned before, the village goes through these audits every year. It's a good thing. It's a great thing. It's an opportunity for us to be able to see how we're sitting. Sometimes we get a little bit of a black eye, other times we get a boost up. I think this year is going to be a boost up. 19 was a complicated year, but luckily from an asset procurement, you know, the building, the fire trucks and everything, it was a little bit smoother. And that's a very good thing, and that's something our auditors are seeing positive. We waited till, October to really see a final audit for 2018 because of the complexity of, you know, building like this and the work there. We're anticipating by the middle of June to have our 2019 audit, which is wonderful. That aligns with the anticipated refinancing and borrow measures in place for years to come, and it'll fit well with that. Things I want to note in that audit is we are getting very, very close to our 2 tax increment finance districts, getting to the point where there's no longer any anticipated expenditures and no more debt to those. It then opens up opportunities for how we might want to align that with maybe future low or moderate income housing opportunities, or outright releasing those for other things related to future TID opportunities. So as we get closer to those, this board will have to make a determination. By rule, the TIFs have to be announced on their closure May 1st, so I don't think it's going to be something we'll recommend for this time, just getting those closed out or enhancing them. But I do anticipate next year we're going to have to make some tough decisions on what we envision the future of those 2 districts to be. One is downtown here, and it extends into the airport area, and the second one's our industrial park. They've been very successful, but at some point they run their course. The other thing I want to note on the audit is that we had our first meeting last week about with our individuals. Kevin Krasinski and Brett, I forget his last name, came from Johnson and Block, and I got to say it's a pleasure working with them. They've got a lot of experience and a lot of excitement, and they're working through the easy stuff right now, and we're working through the accounts payable next, which is always the more complicated one. Everybody out in the audience, we used to always have to balance checkbooks. We really don't balance checkbooks like we used to now that we have debit cards and online banking. But the village still has to balance a checkbook every time. As you can see in our disbursements, we have 8 pages or 7 pages of disbursements. So we're balancing $800,000 every month. So it's just a different volume. I anticipate having a nice update as we continue on with this, and with that, again, it was a gentle winter, so we're running very nicely on a lot of our public works line items this year, so hopefully it'll stay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, next item, approval of vouchers payable.
In total, this billing cycle, we processed expenditures of $858,408.76. The big chunks of these are related to tax payouts. We collect for other municipalities and entities, and we got to cut them checks. We can't keep their money. So you'll notice a couple larger payments of $415,000 and change to the school district, and then $204,000 to the county.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
I'll second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Bruce to approve the vouchers payable. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passed unanimously. All right, discussion and/or action on any other appropriate items. Bob?
No.
Travis? I will just say, dealing with kind of the virus talk, I'm just a reminder, wash your hands before you eat, wash your hands often. That's about it. So that's what I've been trying to do. Yeah.
Reminder that April 7th is a big election for the area. I would like to acknowledge Mike Dunham right here, who is the write-in candidate for the village trustee, and Dave, who's in the back also, and Joel. So I think there were 4 candidates on the ballot and an official write-in. Also, the school board, Bernie, I see is here, who's a write-in candidate. I think there are 2 others that I usually pride myself on doing good with names, but cannot remember either one of them. And then there's 1 official candidate on there. And then on top of that, there's other pieces to the election referendum, obviously, so.
The 2 other write-in candidates, Kaisa Martin and Kirk Rabia,
Okay.
at the ARC.
Yeah, yep, so,
I want brownie points for announcing.
yes. You know, and with that said, I mean, the direction we're going, like Jeremy said, with coronavirus, you can always you can sign up for absentee ballots, which would mean that you wouldn't have to even come physically to a building to do that. But just a reminder on that, elections are big, let's vote.
I just wanted to comment that the Wisconsin Elections Commission has put out guidelines for clerks and election inspectors regarding the coronavirus on election day, and has practices that they have gathered from the CDC on how we're going to make sure that we have plenty of opportunity for people to wash their hands, have hand sanitizer available. Our poll workers will be diligent in wiping equipment and touch screens that people use as well. And as Deb will be sitting this one out as chief inspector since she's on the ballot. And we will miss her, but we will have everything very well covered. But we do want people to know if you have compromised health, compromised immune system, and you are concerned about standing in line being exposed to other folks, that you, we certainly encourage you to vote absentee, make a request for an absentee ballot, and we will accommodate that. I expect this is gonna be a big election. People may expect to spend some time waiting in line, and that there's gonna be a lot of people gathered in a small space. So like I said, we will be following WEC recommendations, certainly on sanitation, control and keeping everybody healthy, but you can request to vote absentee, you can request an absentee ballot online. It doesn't, the request does need to be in writing, and you will still need to be required to provide a photo ID even when you vote absentee. There will be in-person absentee voting available. We don't have any ballots yet. Hoping to get them by the end of the week. But just so people know that there's options available, and we want to accommodate everybody's needs as best we can.
So for the absentee, do they need to come in to get it?
No, it gets mailed out.
Yeah, the absentee ballots will be mailed out after we have the correct documentation and photo ID.
Perfect.
Isn't it great? We've become efficient with touchscreen, and now it's like, that's what's gonna kill us all.
And once you get it mailed to you, you fill it out, seal it, and then you come down and prove who you are and turn it in?
Nope, mail it back.
Yeah, you
Just
just,
mail it back?
yeah, we will enclose with your absentee ballot will be the envelope with the return postage on, for you to fold up your ballot and put it in and mail it back. The biggest thing I want to emphasize, the biggest reason why people's absentee ballots are rejected is that they fail to sign and date the back of the envelope, and they fail to have the ballot witnessed. When that happens, I try to call people and get a hold of them and let them know, hey, can you come on in here and take care of this? I can't always do that because I don't always have a reliable means to contact people. We try. So if you do vote absentee, make sure that the request is in writing along with your photo ID. Can be done online, in
You can-
person, by
And you can
mail.
upload the photo ID online.
Yes, you can
Oh,
upload the
okay.
photo ID online, and then also when you get your absentee ballot, make sure and sign that, date it, and have